So why did you go and put tariffs on a country that we had free trade with? What gets better than free?
Well, I guess with Canada, there's also the.
I mean, I didn't know that.
There's also the added
something better than free, right?
That is the sound of someone being owned by their own argument. A young man, a Trump supporter, has just spent minutes explaining that free trade is good for American business, that Trump gets the best deals, and his opponent has just used both of those premises to ask a question that cannot be answered. If the deal was already free, why did your side make it worse?
Why did you put tariffs on a country that we had free trade with? It was free.
But here's the thing. Our protagonist didn't win this by being smarter, nor did he win it by having better data or a sharper tongue. No, he won it by doing something that most people never think to do. He stopped fighting his opponent's argument and let it fight for him.
That sounds like being a snowflake, if you ask me.
Why hello, my fellow apes. I hope you are well. We're back with Isaiah Martin, a former congressional candidate who went on Jubilee Surrounded to debate 20 MAGA Republicans. Now, we've already watched him dismantle April's defense of Doge by refusing every distraction she threw at him and pinning her to the one question she couldn't answer.
Did you get your $2,000 Doge check?
But today, we're turning to one of Isaiah's other claims. Namely,
my final surrounding claim is that Trump is terrible for the economy.
And to debate him, we have a confident conservative called Martin, which, yes, is also Isaiah's surname. But don't worry, we'll be using first names throughout. Now, unlike April, Martin comes prepared. He has an actual argument. Tariffs are a tool. You use them to create leverage. You negotiate better deals. American businesses win. It's a coherent position, and paradoxically, that's exactly what makes it vulnerable. You see, what Isaiah is about to do is accept Martin's argument wholesale and then use Trump's own actions to tear it apart from the inside. Essentially, he's going to build a trap entirely from his opponent's materials. But Isaiah doesn't come out swinging. In fact, for the first couple of exchanges, he looks like he's losing.
How's it going? Good to see you.
Hey, brother.
All right, so I guess on the economy point, do you want to talk about tariffs or do you want to talk about the one big beautiful bill? Because those were kind of the two biggest points.
What tariffs? Whatever you want to talk about.
Sure. So I guess on tariffs, I mean, do you think that it is a good thing that other countries have tariffs on the United States and that those are allowed to go unchecked?
Martin opens with a smart question. Do you think it's a good thing that other countries tariff the US? It's a strong start. It forces Isaiah into a corner. On the one hand, if he says no, he's conceding that foreign tariffs are a problem, which is exactly where a Trump supporter wants the conversation to go. Because if foreign tariffs are a problem, then Trump's tariffs look like a solution. On the other hand, if he says yes, he's defending a position that nobody holds. I mean, it's obvious that unnecessary tariffs going unchecked aren't good for anyone, are they?
Do you think that it is a good thing that other countries have tariffs on the United States and that those are allowed to go unchecked?
I think that when it comes to the American consumer, you guys raise people's prices by putting tariffs in place.
I mean, that wasn't the question I asked.
I think that's the result of the policies that you push.
Martin is right. It wasn't the question he asked. Isaiah has sidestepped, jumped straight to his counterpunch with a red herring without engaging with Martin's premise. Martin asked whether foreign tariffs on the US are a good thing. Isaiah responded about the price impact of domestic tariffs. Different question, different topic. And Martin, credit to him, catches it immediately.
I mean, that wasn't the question I asked.
This is a weak move from Isaiah. He's answering the question he wanted to be asked rather than the one that he was actually asked. Now, most people watching this would assume that the dynamic is set. Martin is asking the questions. Isaiah isn't answering them. So Martin does what he should. He asks the question again, cleanly demanding a straight answer.
I think that's the result of the policies that you push.
Okay, so would you agree that it is a bad thing that other countries have tariffs on the United States?
It depends.
I don't think, I guess.
Martin presses. Isaiah gives a one-word answer. Depends.
It depends.
And you can see Martin's frustration. But Isaiah is actually right. Sometimes tariffs are necessary to protect industry and jobs. So it depends is the honest answer. The problem, however, is that by not elaborating, Isaiah looks like he's dodging. What he's actually doing, though, is listening. He's waiting for something to latch onto, a claim, a concession, anything that lets him get his nuance on the table without it looking like a dodge. And Martin is about to hand him exactly that. Speaking of things that are listening, incognito mode, the internet's greatest promise of privacy. I opened it last week to quietly look something up after a true crime documentary. Very thoughtful, very discreet. And 45 minutes later, I had searched for how long it takes a body to decompose. And is luminol detectable after bleach? None of it was research. None of it was private. Because the truth is, incognito mode is basically a polite fiction. It stops your browser saving history locally. And that's it. Your internet service provider can still see everything. The sites that you visit can still see you. Google even settled a $5 billion lawsuit after tracking users who thought they were invisible. That's why I use private internet access. It's what incognito mode pretends to be, a VPN that routes your connection through an encrypted tunnel, masking your IP from your ISP, hackers, and anyone interested in your research. 2 clicks and you're actually private. And private internet access doesn't just claim privacy, they've proven it in court and passed an independent audit by Deloitte. So in practice, what this means is that they can't hand over your data because they literally don't store it. You also get servers in 91 countries and all 50 US states, so you can browse from virtually anywhere in the world, perfect for dodging the dreaded not available in your region. Adding to that, there's peer-to-peer support and unlimited device protection too. One account covers everything. Right now, my viewers, you can get an exclusive deal, 83% off, just $2.03 a month, plus 4 extra months free, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Join over 30 million protected users. Go to piavpn.com/rationalityrules and actually go private this time.
I don't think, I guess I don't think it's a good thing for our businesses that they have to be charged to export their industries to other countries. I think that it is a better thing for American businesses to boom if we get other countries, like we've seen in the UK, and with EU trade agreements being negotiated out, so that we can get other countries to take their tariffs off of us. And that was the original point of the tariffs.
Did the United Kingdom take their tariffs off of us?
We had a new trade agreement that had them lower their tariffs on the United States.
So did they take them off?
They lowered them.
Here's where letting Martin talk pays off. By not interrupting, by sitting through the frustration of looking like he's dodging, Isaiah has found what he was waiting for. Martin has just claimed that the US is getting trading partners, the EU, the UK, to lower their tariffs through negotiation. It's a specific, testable claim, and a shaky one.
Like we've seen in the UK, and with EU trade agreements being negotiated out, so that we can get other countries to take their tariffs off of us.
The UK deal isn't legally binding and is little more than a framework for future deals. Though the US did reduce its tariffs to a baseline of 10%. The EU deal is in worse shape. The agreement has been suspended entirely due to Trump's Greenland threats. Oh, and neither trading partner has removed their tariffs on the US. And Isaiah knows that he can win here, because now he can make his point without looking like he's dodging. So that's exactly what he does. It's a subtle moment, but it's the turn. Isaiah has stopped playing defense and started asking questions. And crucially, he's asking questions that operate entirely within Martin's own logic.
So did they take them off?
They lowered them.
You said we're getting countries to drop their tariffs. Did the UK drop theirs? No. It's Martin's own standard, Martin's own test. But this is just the warm-up. If Isaiah wants his strongest case against Trump's tariffs, and he does, there's one trading partner in particular he needs to bring up, and that is precisely where he steers the conversation.
So did they take them off?
They lowered them.
So let me ask you a question. What would be the purpose of enacting tariffs on a country like Canada?
On Canada, well, you want to protect certain industries, and Canada also has a lot of tariffs on the United States, and to get them to have a trade agreement with the United States on that.
Canada. Of all the countries Isaiah could have picked, he picked the most egregious example of Trump's tariffs having nothing to do with strategy and everything to do with grievance. By steering Martin here, Isaiah forces him into a corner. Either defend tariffs that have no strategic justification, or distance himself from Trump. Both our wins. And let's appreciate what Martin actually brought up.
You want to protect certain industries.
He mentions protecting certain industries, lumber, domestic production. In other words, Martin is now arguing that tariffs are sometimes justified for specific limited reasons. Sound familiar? That's exactly the nuance that Isaiah was offering when he said, depends.
Would you agree that it is a bad thing that other countries have tariffs on the United States?
It depends.
The same nuance Martin was frustrated by just seconds ago. And now Martin is the one making the case. It's a phenomenal move. Isaiah has gone from being on the ropes, getting hammered with a binary question he wouldn't answer, to having Martin pinned with questions he can't escape.
Canada also has a lot of tariffs on the United States, and to get them to have a trade agreement with the United States on that. I don't think it's...
Didn't we have free trade
I don't think
with
it's
Canada?
no. I don't think...
What was the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement?
As Martin scrambles, Isaiah brings up the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, a free trade that Trump himself negotiated and bragged about. This is absolutely devastating territory for Martin, because Trump has already contradicted himself. He negotiated the deal, called it a win, and then turned around and slapped tariffs on those very same countries, effectively declaring his own agreement wasn't good. So there's nowhere for Martin to go, is there? If he defends the agreement, then the tariffs make no sense. If he defends the tariffs, he's admitting that Trump's own deal was a failure. Either way, he fails.
What was the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement?
That wasn't in effect when Donald Trump took office.
Who negotiated the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement?
Look, I don't think it is not a good thing.
Who negotiated it?
It's not a good thing.
Do you know what it is?
It is not a good thing.
Do you know what it is? You don't know what it is, do you?
Yes, I do.
What is it? Explain it.
Notice who's dodging now, huh? Martin is desperately avoiding answering the question because he knows that any answer won't work out for him. But Isaiah won't let him escape. Who negotiated it? Do you know what it is? Explain it. The same relentless, specific pressure that Martin was using on Isaiah minutes ago is now being used on him. The discourse has completely reversed, and Isaiah isn't going to let up until Martin answers.
You don't know what it is, do you?
Yes, I do.
What is it? Explain it.
Yeah, it was a trade agreement between the United States that overturned the previous NAFTA agreement.
And so what did it do?
It established the parameters for
So who negotiated it?
It was Donald Trump.
There. Isaiah has now established, through Martin's own mouth, two facts. The US had a free trade deal with Canada. That is to say, no tariffs. And Trump slapped tariffs on them anyway. Martin knows what he's just given away, and Isaiah is about to make sure that he can't take it back.
So who negotiated it?
It was Donald Trump.
So Donald Trump negotiated the USMCA.
Yeah, we need to
free trade agreement that was governing over the United States.
It wasn't free trade. We need to renegotiate these trade agreements.
What does NAFTA stand for?
North American Free Trade Agreement. That's what was before Donald Trump.
Like free trade.
Martin tries to escape by claiming the original deal wasn't actually free trade. So Isaiah simply asks what NAFTA stands for.
What does NAFTA stand for?
Martin says it out loud. North American Free Trade Agreement.
North American Free Trade Agreement.
Now, a name isn't proof of anything. Plenty of things aren't what they say they are on the tin. Looking at you, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. But in a live debate in front of an audience, making your opponent say the words free trade agreement while they're arguing it wasn't free trade is a rhetorical gut punch.
What does NAFTA stand for?
North American Free Trade Agreement. That's what was before Donald Trump.
Like free trade.
Yeah, again, that was before. That wasn't in effect when Donald Trump took over.
And so then yes, it was. And so, first of all, the USMCA was effectively the same thing as NAFTA.
No, it wasn't.
And so what changed?
I mean, the trade parameters changed, but like I said, I don't think it's a good thing.
Name one.
What do you mean?
What changed?
I mean, for starters, lumber. The way that we trade lumber with Canada changed.
How?
I don't know the actual intricacies of the USMCA.
Martin pushes back on Isaiah's claim that the USMCA was effectively the same as NAFTA. Fair enough, that's a debatable point.
The USMCA was effectively the same thing as NAFTA.
No,
and so,
but then Isaiah does what he's been doing all exchange. He asks for specifics. Name one thing that changed. And Martin can't.
I don't know the actual intricacies of the USMCA.
He's been defending a deal he can't describe, drawing a distinction he can't define, and arguing that it wasn't free trade without being able to explain what it was instead.
How?
I don't know the actual intricacies of the USMCA, but what I will say is I don't think it's a good thing.
So we have free trade with Canada.
I don't think it's a good thing when countries like
So why
the
did you
EU
go and put tariffs on a country that we had free trade with? What gets better than free?
And just like that, it's over. Everything Martin has said, every premise, every justification, now works against him. He can't say that the deal was bad because his own side made it.
So who negotiated it?
It's Donald Trump.
He can't say that free trade wasn't the goal because that's been his entire argument.
I don't think it's a good thing for our businesses that they have to be charged to export their industries to other countries.
And he can't explain why you'd put tariffs on something that was already free.
What gets better than free?
The argument has collapsed, and it collapsed from the inside.
So why did you go and put tariffs on a country that we had free trade with? What gets better than free?
Well, I guess with Canada, there's also the.
I mean, I didn't know that.
There's also the added part.
Something better than free, right?
There's also the added part with Canada that they were spraying propaganda into the United States, which isn't a good thing. That we have an ally spreading propaganda into the United States.
Propaganda. That is where Martin lands. Canada was spreading propaganda into the United States. Let that breathe for a moment. We've gone from tariffs as leverage to free trade as the goal to propaganda.
Right? There's also the added part with Canada that they were spraying propaganda into the United States, which isn't a good thing. That we have an ally spreading propaganda into the United States.
That has nothing to do with what.
Yes, it is.
I'm just asking you.
Tariffs are a means.
Why did you put tariffs on a country that we had free trade with? It was free.
Yeah, because they're pumping propaganda into the United States.
And just like that, the goalposts have moved. Tariffs were a tool for leverage.
Get other countries to take their tariffs off of us. And that was the original point of the tariffs.
Then they were about protecting industries.
You want to protect certain industries.
Now they're a punishment for propaganda.
Because they're pumping propaganda into the United States.
Martin has abandoned the economic argument entirely, and the new one isn't any safer. Because, as we've already seen, Isaiah is very good at demanding specifics. And propaganda is about to get that very treatment.
They're pumping propaganda into the United States.
They were pumping propaganda into the United States? How?
What do you mean, how?
How?
It was like during the World Series, Canada propaganda to the United States. Of course we're going to put tariffs on them for that.
They ran a commercial. That's it. That is the propaganda. For those unfamiliar, the government of Ontario aired an advert during the 2025 World Series that featured Ronald Reagan in a collection of his own words speaking about the importance of free trade and international cooperation.
High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars.
It wasn't a fabrication. It wasn't disinformation. It was a former Republican president saying things the current Republican president disagrees with. And do you know why Canada made the advert in the first place? It's because Trump was throwing extreme tariffs on them. Yeah, you heard that right. Canada's propaganda was a response to the very policy Martin is trying to defend. Also, what's the actual position here? I mean, is speaking against the government's policies using the party's own words propaganda? Really?
Of course we're going to put tariffs on them for that.
They showed a commercial of Ronald Reagan in his own words.
Yeah,
so that means
we shouldn't have other countries
wait a second.
allies come in and counter-signaling the president of the United States.
So you just made Americans pay more for everything that comes from Canada because they showed a commercial you didn't like? That sounds like being a snowflake, if you ask me.
And he's not wrong, is he? The Trump administration saw a commercial featuring a former Republican president talking about free trade, and their response was to raise tariffs, making every American pay more money for Canadian goods. That's not economic policy. That's a tantrum, and Isaiah has just described it using the right's own favorite word for people who can't handle disagreement. Snowflake.
That sounds like being a snowflake, if you ask me.
We should be holding our allies accountable.
Why are
when they
conservatives so
countersignal the United States of America.
This is what happens when you have conservative government. They're so sensitive. They're over here raising your prices because they had a commercial that you don't like.
Tariffs don't raise prices. There was just a study
What?
from, I believe, Use Chicago that came out that tariffs actually don't raise the prices of
Why
goods.
would you go put tariffs on a country we had free F-R-E-E trade with?
I think that we have a strategic advantage of having our lumber industry here in the United States. I don't want to be reliant upon Canada for our lumber.
Goalposts have, once again, moved. First, tariffs were leverage for trade deals. Then, they were punishment for a commercial. Now, they're about protecting the lumber industry.
We have a strategic advantage of having our lumber industry here in the United States.
Every time Isaiah pins Martin on one justification, the new one appears. That's 3 different reasons for the same policy, and not one of them has survived contact with a follow-up question.
I don't want to be reliant upon Canada for lumber.
Do to go and achieve that aim?
Yeah, it makes it more expensive for imports to come to the United States so that businesses can relocate back to America.
So now, if your disagreement was tariffs on lumber, your answer now is for tariffs on everything.
Isaiah spots the mismatch immediately. If lumber is your concern, you target lumber. But Trump didn't put a lumber tariff on Canada. He put tariffs on everything. Martin's specific justification can't explain the sweeping policy.
Your answer now is for tariffs on everything.
Again, yeah, you want to establish leverage for future trade agreements. That's how trade agreements work. That's how negotiations work.
And the leverage is to go and charge for something you are getting largely for free.
Again, because you want to have a strategic advantage of making it in the United States, obviously.
Free. Isaiah keeps hammering the word because it's the one thing that Martin cannot get around.
You are getting largely for free.
Every justification that Martin offers, lumber, leverage, strategic advantage, runs headfirst into the fact that the deal was already free. You had what you wanted, and then your side blew it up. Every time Martin reaches for a new reason, Isaiah drops the word again. Free. It's an anchor, and Martin is chained to it.
It's obviously
free, and you've heard American businesses that does stuff with Canada as a result of that. The amount of trade that we've had for American companies that do business with Canada has decreased as a result of these policies. And now what's also happening is that Canada is now going all around the world to go look for other partners. It's why, for example, they're meeting with India, why they're meeting with the European Union. And when they go find these new partners, they're not going to want to go buy as much from the United States. So you know what these policies did because you guys were offended about a commercial? You sent our trade partners all the way around the world. You raised our prices as a result, and you screwed over American businesses.
That is the entire debate in a breath. Notice that Isaiah hasn't introduced a single external argument. He hasn't cited a study. He hasn't quoted a pundit. Everything he's just said, the lost trade, the rising prices, the partners fleeing to India and the EU, flows directly from the premises that Martin handed him. You had free trade, you broke it, and now American businesses and households are paying the price for a tantrum over a commercial. Brilliant.
And you screwed over American businesses, and that's not something that's good for the American people.
You want to talk about Canada, but you don't.
Pause. You've been voted out. Thank you.
That's where it ends. Martin is voted out. And his final words, "That's not what it's about,"
Screwed over American businesses
are perhaps the most telling of the entire exchange, because it is what it's about. Isaiah has been talking about tariffs the entire time. He's just been using Martin's own logic to do it.
That sounds like being a snowflake, if you ask me.
So what do we take from all of this? Most people, when they disagree with someone, attack the argument. They say tariffs are bad to someone who thinks that tariffs are good. They say free trade doesn't work to someone who believes in free trade. And then both sides dig in and nobody moves. You end up in parallel arguments, two people talking past each other, each fortified in their own position. Isaiah did something different. He accepted Martin's logic. Free trade is good, that the US should be getting the best deals possible. And then he chose exactly where to apply it. He steered the conversation to Canada, where Trump's own actions contradict every premise that Martin had laid out.
It was free.
Isaiah didn't need his own evidence. He didn't need his own logic. He used Martin's, and Martin couldn't argue back, because he'd have to argue against himself, against his own team. That is how you own someone with their own argument. But here's what makes this hard. It requires you to actually listen, and not just listen, but steer. Isaiah couldn't have done this if he'd been preparing for his next talking point while Martin was speaking. He had to hear the argument, understand it, and identify where it contradicted Martin's own side's actions. Then he had to guide the conversation there. That's not passive. That's strategy. So, the next time that someone makes a case that you disagree with, resist the urge to immediately say you're wrong. Instead, try saying, okay, let's say you're right. Then ask them to explain their own side's actions under their own rules. If the rules hold up, you'll learn something, and then you can move on. If they don't, well, the contradiction does the work for you.
Why would you go put tariffs on a country we had free F-R-E-E trade with?
Anyhow, as always, thank you kindly for the view. And an extra special thank you to everyone who supports the channel, including today's sponsor, private internet access.